Patagonia, a land where the wind never stops, where mountains slice the clouds, and where birds have learned to survive in ways that defy belief. This isn't just another travel postcard. Patagonia is wild, it's raw, and for birds, it's a testing ground. In this video, we're uncovering 15 bird species shaped by wind and ice, from the giant raptors that ride storm gusts like kites to tiny songbirds that refuse to quit, even when the cold bites hard. Some of these birds look like they belong in the Ice Age. Others seem too beautiful for such a rugged place. But every one of them tells a story you won't forget. Before we dive in, let me ask, which bird would you be? A fighter that thrives in storms, or a wanderer that crosses thousands of miles just to find a home? Hit like, subscribe, and let's begin this flight. Imagine a shadow crossing the Patagonian plains. A shadow so wide it could swallow you whole. Look up. That's not a storm cloud. That's the Andian Condor, the largest flying bird in the Western Hemisphere and one of Patagonia's most iconic creatures. With a wingspan reaching up to 10 feet, it doesn't flap like other birds. It sails. Using the fierce thermals and updrafts of the Andes and Patagonian steppe, it can glide for hours, sometimes over 100 miles in a single day, without a single wing beat. But here's something most people don't realize. This massive, majestic bird is not a hunter. It's a scavenger. Condors feed almost exclusively on carcasses, the remains of guanacos, deer, or sheep. It may sound grim, but their role is critical. By cleaning up dead animals, condors prevent the spread of disease, keeping the ecosystem healthy and balanced. And their biology, it's full of surprises. That bald head, it's not just for show. It helps them stay clean while feeding, minimizing infection from decaying flesh. Their stomachs are highly acidic, capable of digesting rotting meat that would kill other animals. They mate for life, often returning to the same nesting cliffs for decades. Some condors have been recorded living over 70 years, a remarkable lifespan for a bird in such a harsh, unforgiving environment. They don't build nests. Instead, they lay a single egg directly on rocky ledges, often thousands of feet above the valley floor. Raising a chick takes over a year, making every offspring precious. And when you see one, gliding against the orange sky at sunset, wings spread like a glider, its wrinkled face glowing in the last light, you understand why the Inca and other Andean cultures believed the condor was a messenger of the gods, a guardian between the heavens and the earth. So yes, it's massive. Yes, it's a little creepy. But the Andian condor isn't just a bird, it's a force of nature. Coming up next, something smaller, quieter, but just as tough. This bird doesn't glide, it digs. It waddles, it honks like a rusty trumpet. And it lives in the desert. Meet the Magelanic Penguin, Patagonia's most surprising resident. Forget everything you think you know about penguins. This species doesn't huddle on Antarctic ice. It nests in dusty burrows, under thorny bushes, along wind-blasted shores of Argentina and Chile. And when it's nesting season, the beaches come alive with the sound of penguin couples arguing. Literally, these birds are loud, and they sound more like donkeys than birds. Scientists even call their call a bray. It's hilarious and weirdly charming. But here's where it gets even stranger. Magellanic penguins are deep-sea hunters, diving up to 100 meters down for anchovies and squid. And they travel hundreds of miles just to feed their chicks. That means one parent stays behind to guard the nest, while the other goes on a risky fishing trip, dodging sea lions, sharks, and oil spills. It's like a long-distance grocery run where death is always an option. And yet these birds are devoted. They return to the same partner each year, the same nesting site, sometimes even the same hole in the ground. It's that loyalty, despite the chaos of wind, predators, and heat, that makes them Patagonia's most relatable bird. So next time someone says penguins only live on ice, you can say, actually, the real fighters live where the sand burns and the wind never stops. Now ready to meet a bird that sounds like a UFO and looks like it was drawn by a bored artist? Up next, a flamingo with a secret. Pink, graceful, delicate. That's what most people think when they hear flamingo. But this one lives in volcanic salt lakes high up in the Andes, where the air is thin and the water can burn your skin. Say hello to the Andian Flamingo, a bird that's both beautiful and bizarre. At first glance, it looks like your typical flamingo. Long legs, curved neck, soft pink feathers. But look closer, and you'll see something strange. Its legs are yellow, and its wings have flashes of black and deep red. It's like someone painted it during an earthquake. And unlike its Caribbean cousins, this flamingo doesn't just stand around. It survives in some of the harshest wetlands on Earth. Salty, alkaline, sometimes frozen. The kind of place where not even insects dare to live. So what do they eat? Tiny pink shrimp-like creatures that thrive in this toxic soup. And here's the twist. The flamingo's color actually comes from eating these microscopic crustaceans. No shrimp, no pink. So if the lake dries up or gets polluted, the color fades and the bird can die. But perhaps the saddest part? The Andean flamingo is critically endangered. With climate change and mining destroying their nesting grounds, fewer than 35,000 are left in the wild. They breed slowly, they nest in large colonies, and sometimes they skip reproduction entirely if the conditions aren't perfect. And yet, when they dance, yes, they dance to find a mate. It's like watching ballet in a place no human was ever meant to be. Quiet, haunting, and unforgettable. Think flamingos are soft? This one is forged by fire, wind, and salt. Coming up next, a bird with a sword for a beak and an attitude to match. Pink, graceful, delicate. That's what most people think when they hear flamingo. But this one lives in volcanic salt lakes high up in the Andes, where the air is thin and the water can burn your skin. Say hello to the Andian flamingo, a bird that's both beautiful and bizarre. At first glance, it looks like your typical flamingo. Long legs, curved neck, soft pink feathers. But look closer, and you'll see something strange. Its legs are yellow, and its wings have flashes of black and deep red. It's like someone painted it during an earthquake. And unlike its Caribbean cousins, this flamingo doesn't just stand around. It survives in some of the harshest wetlands on Earth. Salty, alkaline, sometimes frozen. The kind of place where not even insects dare to live. So what do they eat? Tiny pink shrimp-like creatures that thrive in this toxic soup. And here's the twist. The flamingo's color actually comes from eating these microscopic crustaceans. No shrimp, no pink. So if the lake dries up or gets polluted, the color fades and the bird can die. But perhaps the saddest part? The Andean flamingo is critically endangered. With climate change and mining destroying their nesting grounds, fewer than 35,000 are left in the wild. They breed slowly, they nest in large colonies, and sometimes they skip reproduction entirely if the conditions aren't perfect. And yet, when they dance, yes, they dance to find a mate. It's like watching ballet in a place no human was ever meant to be. Quiet, haunting, and unforgettable. Think flamingos are soft? This one is forged by fire, wind, and salt. Coming up next, a bird with a sword for a beak and an attitude to match. You'd think nothing could survive in the icy winds of Patagonia. And then, zip, a blur of green, orange, and gold buzzes past your face. It's not a bug, it's a hummingbird. And not just any hummingbird. This is the green-backed Firecrown, one of the southernmost hummingbirds on Earth. At first glance, it seems impossible. This bird is barely the size of your thumb. Its heart beats over 1,000 times per minute, and its wings blur faster than your eyes can track. But despite its tiny frame, the Firecrown is fierce. Males defend their feeding grounds like little sky warriors, flashing their fiery crown feathers, chasing off rivals, and even dive-bombing hawks, eagles, and foxes. Yes, this bird will pick fights with predators 10 times its size and often wins. Here's how. They feed on nectar from rugged, wind-blown flowers using a super long, curled tongue that acts like a built-in straw. They also eat small insects mid-flight for protein, because hey, even hummingbirds need a little meat. But here's the twist. When winter hits and flowers disappear, many greenback firecrowns don't just hunker down. They migrate across the Andes. crossing icy altitudes and braving oxygen-starved air on wings the size of paper clips. Imagine a creature that weighs less than a coin, crossing a mountain range that kills humans in hours. That's not delicate, that's hardcore. Visually, they're dazzling. Males sparkle with emerald backs and a bright orange-red crown, while females are subtler, still gorgeous, but more camouflaged for nesting. And just like that, zip, they're gone again. A burst of energy in the cold, a flash of fire where you least expect it. So here's your thought for today. If you had the wings to go anywhere, but only weighed a few grams, where would you fly first? Drop your answer in the comments. Next, we shift from sparks to shadows, because our next bird moves like a ghost across the wetlands, vanishing between reeds and staring right back at you. Blink and it's gone. No fanfare, no splash, just a quiet ripple, and then nothing. Meet the spectacled duck, one of Patagonia's shyest residents. A bird so quiet, most people living near its lakes have never seen it. It doesn't shout, it doesn't show off, and it absolutely does not pose for your camera. What it does is vanish. This small, subtly patterned duck gets its name from the soft, pale rings around its eyes. Like it's wearing tiny glasses. A little nerdy? Sure, but don't let the look fool you. This duck is a master of stillness. You'll find it in remote glacial lakes and cold rivers tucked deep in the southern Andes of Chile and Argentina. Far from cities, far from farms, far from noise. While other ducks gather in flocks, flash their colors, and fight over breadcrumbs in city parks, the spectacled duck prefers a different lifestyle. Solitude. Its feathers are soft brown and earth tone, peppered with subtle spots. Perfect for melting into the background. Even the sun can't seem to catch it. Here's the twist. Despite being almost invisible in the wild, the spectacled duck is not endangered. Why? Because it stays away from us. It doesn't rely on human-altered wetlands, and it doesn't nest near roads. It simply lives where people don't. It eats a simple diet: seeds, aquatic plants, small insects. It mates for life, raises just a handful of chicks at a time, and never causes a fuss. No flashy displays, no migration headlines, just quiet, resilient existence. And in a world full of noise, shrieks, tweets, colors, drama, maybe that's its real power. So here's a question for you. Would you rather be seen by everyone or truly at peace, even if no one's watching? Let us know in the comments, because next up, we're going from stillness to spectacle. A bird that doesn't just fly, it dances with the wind. Don't blink for this one. Picture this, a wide Patagonian field, wind howling, not a tree in sight. Then a scream, sharp, wild, like a warning siren echoing across the plain. That's no alarm, that's the southern lapwing, a bird that looks like it came from a punk concert and acts like it owns the place. At first glance, it seems like a modest shorebird, gray body, long pink legs, a little black crest flaring up in the wind. But get too close to its nest, and suddenly you're in a full-blown aerial dogfight. These birds are fiercely territorial. They dive bomb intruders, humans, hawks, cows, anything. And here's the kicker. They even have a sharp little spur on their wing, like a built-in dagger. Yes, this bird comes with weapons. What's even stranger? They lay their eggs right on the ground out in the open. No nest, no cover, just blind faith and brutal defense. But it works because no predator wants to get screamed at and stabbed by an angry bird in the middle of nowhere. And if you hear more than one calling, that's a coordinated defense team. Southern lapwings sometimes form small gangs to protect their nesting area. Teamwork with attitude. Fun fact, they're one of the few birds that thrive in disturbed landscapes. Roadside, soccer fields, even airports. If it's flat, open, and windy, they'll claim it. They may not be the prettiest birds in Patagonia, but they're loud, proud, and impossible to ignore. Coming up next, a bird of pure elegance, long-legged, soft-colored, and with a call that sounds like a whisper in the fog. You're walking through the dry, dusty cliffs of Patagonia. It's quiet, still, and then suddenly, the rock explodes. Not literally, but it comes alive with thousands of flashes of green, gold, orange, and blue, erupting from the canyon wall like living fireworks. The air fills with screeches, whistles, and wild chatter. Congratulations. You've just stumbled into a burrowing parrot colony. Yes, burrowing. These large, colorful parrots don't nest in trees. They dig into cliff faces, carving deep tunnels into the rock like feathered miners. Some colonies have hundreds of entrances, packed side by side like a giant parrot apartment complex. And these aren't shallow holes. Each tunnel can stretch up to 10 feet deep, carved by sharp beaks and powerful claws over days of nonstop work. Inside, they raise noisy, hungry chicks that sound like squeaky toys, with volume stuck on max. But here's the twist. They're picky architects. The rock has to be just right. If it's too soft, it collapses. Too hard, they can't dig. So they return to the same rare cliff faces year after year. Some of these colonies have been active for over a century, a feathered city passed down through generations. And when a full colony takes flight, it's chaos in the most beautiful way. A swirling storm of color and noise, cutting across the desert sky like a living mural. Here's the tough part. They're not endangered yet, but they are declining. Fast, trapped for the pet trade, shot as pests by farmers, pushed out by habitat loss. Still they remain. Artists, engineers, survivors. Fun fact, burrowing parrots are incredibly social. They even recognize individual voices within their flock. It's like a giant neighborhood with its own parrot language. So here's a question for the comments. If you had to live in a cliffside burrow with 200 noisy neighbors, could you handle it? Tell us below. And next, we meet a bird that looks elegant and poised until it opens its mouth and sounds like a dinosaur on a bad day. You hear it before you see it. A deep, echoing blast rolls across the wetlands like a foghorn in a thunderstorm. It's not a siren. It's not a malfunctioning speaker. It's a bird. Yes, really, a bird. Meet the southern screamer, aka the alarm system of South America's marshes. At nearly the size of a turkey, with thick legs, a long neck, and a prehistoric glare, this bird looks like it wandered out of a time machine. Its body says goose, its wings say glider, but its voice? Absolute chaos. Its call can be heard from over 3 kilometers away. That's nearly 2 miles. A piercing, chest-rattling blast that makes you stop and go, was that a creature or a warning from the swamp? Why so loud? To claim territory, to stay connected with its mate, and to make sure everything, from predators to nosy tourists, knows not to get too close. But here's the twist. For all the drama, the southern screamer is surprisingly peaceful. It mates for life. It builds enormous floating nests in the reeds. And both parents share chick duty. No screaming there, just solid teamwork. Fun fact, its wings are tipped with sharp spurs, used to fend off attackers. And its feet? Partially webbed, like it couldn't decide whether to be a duck or a land bird. This bird doesn't migrate, doesn't hide. It just stands tall among the reeds, sounding its ancient trumpet into the wind like it owns the marsh. Because honestly, it kind of does. You almost never see it in zoos. You rarely see it on TV. Why? Because it lives in massive, remote wetlands, places few people go, and even fewer understand. But once you hear it, you won't forget it. So here's your comment question. If you had a voice that could be heard for miles, what would you use it for? Tell us below. And coming up next, a bird that flirts with the wind, builds its nest on sheer cliffs, and has turned daredevil romance into an art form. It's sharp, it's sleek, and it doesn't care about your birdwatching checklist. Meet the white-throated Kerakara, one of Patagonia's most elusive raptors, and probably the one bird your binoculars will never find. At first glance, it looks almost formal, like a hawk wearing a tuxedo, jet black body, bright white throat and upper chest, orange skin around the beak, and eyes that reflect the mountains like polished obsidian. But this bird, it doesn't fly like a hawk. It doesn't hunt like a falcon. It wanders, watches, waits. You'll find it, if you're lucky, along volcanic slopes, high cliffs, and barren ridges across southern Chile and Argentina. Always alone, always in places where the wind is stronger than the trees. Here's the twist. Despite its fierce look, the white-throated Kerakara is a scavenger first. It often follows pumas, foxes, or condors, waiting for leftovers. Sometimes it'll even walk, yes, walk, through the scrubland like a shadow looking for scraps. It's a ghost bird. Few thousand individuals remain in the wild, and even seasoned birders spend years in Patagonia without ever spotting one. It doesn't call attention to itself. It doesn't soar dramatically. It just appears, quiet, quick, then disappears into the wind. But don't underestimate it, because in this harsh volcanic landscape, every cleanup crew matters. The white-throated Kerakara plays a quiet but vital role, removing dead animals, controlling insects, and keeping the ecosystem balanced. Fun fact, it's the least studied Kerakara species in South America. We still don't fully understand its breeding habits, population trends, or long-term future. In other words, it's slipping away before we've even gotten to know it. So here's your thought for today. Would you rather be rare and unknown, or common and unforgettable? Tell us in the comments. Up next, we meet a bird with no concept of too much. A full-throated singer that fills the night sky with sound, just because it can. You don't need shimmering feathers or high-speed flight to make an impact. Sometimes, a song is enough. Meet the rufus collared sparrow, a bird so common across Patagonia, you might overlook it. But stop and listen, and you'll realize this little bird carries the soul of the steppe. It's small, brown, unassuming, a soft splash of reddish-orange feathers around the neck, like a cozy scarf tossed on by accident. Not flashy, not dramatic, but then it sings, a whistling melody that rises and falls like wind rolling across grasslands, soft and strong all at once. And the wild part? No two populations sing exactly the same. Each region has its own accent, its own local dialect. Scientists have been studying rufus-collared sparrow songs for decades to understand how birds learn, adapt, and even invent their own tunes. Here's the twist. Sparrows that grow up in isolated valleys or noisy cities, they create new melodies, remixes of old songs adapted to the world around them. It's bird jazz. They sing at dawn, they sing at dusk. They'll even sing at night, under full moons or after a rain, when the air is still and the world feels just a little more alive. They may not be rare, but they're always present, always humming in the background. And when the Patagonian steppe falls quiet, it's often this little bird's voice that fills the silence. Fun fact, in some cultures, rufus-collared sparrows are seen as weather predictors. Their singing tied to rain, temperature shifts, and changing seasons. So here's something to think about. If your voice could echo across an empty landscape, what would you sing about? Drop a comment and let us know. Next, we trade quiet melodies for raw power. A bird built for altitude, speed, and breaking every rule of flight. At first, it's just a ripple, a faint disturbance on the lake's still surface. No wings, no sound, just movement, like a ghost slipping beneath the skin of the water. And then it turns. You catch a flash of rust-red feathers, a glint of black eyes, and suddenly, this is no ripple. It's the great grebe, the largest diving bird in South America, and one of Patagonia's most mysterious residents. Bigger than a duck, longer than a gull, but smoother, more elegant somehow. It doesn't flap, flail, or waddle. It glides, smooth as oil, low to the water, silent as mist. The great grebe is built for one thing, hunting underwater. With a long, pointed bill like a spear and legs placed far back on its body, it swims with surprising grace. Below the surface, it kicks, twists, and darts through the water like a dancer in slow motion. Emerging only when the hunt is done, a silver fish glittering in its beak. Here's the twist. Unlike other grebes, this one isn't tiny. It's over 2 feet long and weighs as much as a small goose. And yet it barely flies, only in emergencies, and even then, awkwardly. It doesn't walk well either. It's not made for land or air. It's made for water and silence. Its colors are haunting. A soft reddish gold neck, deep black head, and a long smoke gray body that disappears into fog. Even its voice is barely a whisper. A thin, reedy call that blends perfectly with wind and reeds. Fun fact, great grebes are known for their floating nests hidden deep in reed beds. Parents take turns diving and feeding chicks, and when they're tiny, those chicks ride on their parents' backs, wrapped in down, like little passengers on a ghost ship. You won't find them in parks or postcards, but if you ever see one gliding across a cold, remote lake, you'll remember it. Not because it screamed for attention, but because it didn't. So here's your thought for the comments. If you could master one element, land, air, or water, which would you choose and why? Tell us below. And now, we move to a dancer, a bird so rare, so devoted to love, it performs on the very edge, then disappears. High above the windswept plains of Patagonia, beyond the trees, beyond the cliffs, where the air thins and the clouds drift at eye level, walks a bird dressed in silence. This is the Andean goose. It doesn't swim, it doesn't soar, it simply walks. Unlike its cousins found in ponds and lakes, the Andean goose makes its home on the cold, rocky plateaus of the high Andes, often at altitudes above 14,000 feet. Where oxygen is low, temperatures are brutal, and most life turns back. It keeps moving forward. Its feathers are snow white with sharp black wingtips like fresh powder against volcanic stone. And it's almost never seen alone. These geese are lifelong partners. They feed side by side, graze on short alpine grasses, and raise their young in shallow tundra hollows carved by wind and time. And here's the twist. They don't flock. They don't honk. In a world of noisy geese, the Andean goose is quiet, almost sacred. Locals once believed they were guardian spirits of the mountains, watching from the ridgelines, silent, still, and strangely human in their devotion. You won't hear them unless you are very close. You won't see them unless you climb. And even then, you'll likely see just two, always two, moving slowly across the sky-colored tundra like white shadows against stone. Fun fact, unlike many geese, Andean geese have strong, padded feet built for climbing. They can walk for miles a day without ever touching water, but now even they feel the shift. Climate change is creeping upward. Faster snowmelt, shifting grass lines, more erratic storms. And yet, they stay, side by side, unbothered, unshaken. So here's a quiet question for you. If you could weather life's storms with just one companion, who would you want walking beside you? Let us know in the comments, but don't get too peaceful, because coming up next is a bird that doesn't walk. It tears through the sky like a missile, and it's got one thing on its mind, the hunt. You won't hear it, you'll barely see it, but when it comes, it's already too late. 1 second, the sky is still. The next, a flash of silver and flame cuts across the horizon like a thrown blade. This is the Applamato falcon, and it doesn't fly. It launches. Lean, narrow, and built like a guided missile, this falcon is a predator of pure precision. It doesn't just rely on speed, it relies on strategy. Often hunting in pairs, Applamato falcons work together like synchronized fighter jets. One dives low to flush out birds or rodents, while the other strikes from above with terrifying accuracy. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Just focus and follow through. The word Applamato comes from Spanish, meaning lead-colored, a nod to its slate blue back, rusty orange chest, and bright yellow legs that look like they were forged in a blacksmith's fire. Its eyes, unblinking, always locked on. This falcon thrives in Patagonia's open grasslands, where the flat, endless landscape leaves no room for mistakes. There's no canopy to hide behind, no jungle to vanish into, just raw speed, quick reactions, and sky-wide chess matches. But here's the twist. Even a bird this fast is slowing down. Habitat loss, pesticides, and disappearing prey have caused Applamato populations to decline sharply across South America. In places it once ruled, it now appears as a flicker, if at all. And yet when you do see one, perched on a fence post, feathers ruffling in the wind, scanning the earth like it's reading its next move, you understand. This bird isn't just fast, it's flawless, a symbol of elegance sharpened by survival. Speed without chaos, power without noise. So here's your moment of reflection. If you had total focus, no distractions, no fear, what would you chase down first? Let us know in the comments. Next up, we meet our final bird, a creature that lives in legend, hunts with humans, and rules the mountains like a shadow with wings. If there's one bird that captures the fragility and wonder of Patagonia's wilderness, it's this one, the hooded gribba. Small, quiet, almost invisible, and yet it carries one of the most haunting stories in the animal kingdom. This bird doesn't live in forests, rivers, or meadows. It survives on a string of remote glacial lakes, high in the wind-whipped plateaus of southern Patagonia, lakes so cold and temporary that they vanish for most of the year. But each summer, as the snow melts and the wind softens, the hooded grebe returns, not just to feed, but to dance. Their courtship is like a ritual out of a dream. Two birds rise up breast to breast, wings fluttering in slow unison. Their red eyes lock. Their black and white crests sway like delicate fans. And for a moment, the world becomes still. But fewer and fewer birds are dancing each year because the hooded grebe is on the brink of extinction. There are likely fewer than 800 left in the wild. Mink, an invasive predator, kills their chicks. Climate change dries up their breeding lakes before the chicks can even fledge. And even wind turbines meant to help the planet cut into their flight paths, breaking the fragile chain that links lake to lake. Conservationists have tried everything, moving nests, building floating platforms, trapping predators, but time is running out. And yet, they return. They dance, not for cameras, not for science, but for love, for instinct, for hope. They are not powerful. They are not loud. They don't soar. But in a land ruled by condors and storms, the hooded grebe is a whisper in the wind, a soft pulse of life in the silence, a heartbeat that asks, will we notice when it fades? Will we care when the last ripple disappears from the lake? Because when even the quietest voices are gone, what stories will Patagonia have left to tell? If one of these birds caught your breath, sparked your curiosity, or made you say, wait, that actually exists? Hit that like button, drop a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe, because the wild has so much more to show us. Now you've seen Patagonia, not just its peaks and plains, but its voices. Some loud, some quiet, some fierce, some gentle, all unforgettable. Because here, even the wind carries wings, and every shadow might be something watching. So if you're still with us, thank you. From the tiniest hummingbird to the ghost owl in the trees, you've just traveled across one of Earth's last wild frontiers. And remember, some birds are born to be seen, but others are waiting to be discovered. See you on the next flight. Amen.